could do. And there was like a list of names of people who we could reach out to. And I was like, fuck it, guys. I'll do it. I'll just do it. I trust myself to learn all the lines and figure it out. So when you don't have a whole lot of time to like, I probably would have, if I had the full process, I probably would have struggled a lot more.
Okay.
With,
but you kind of had to throw yourself into it.
Yeah.
Right away.
I didn't have a choice, like, which was also nice because I didn't have any, sometimes when you hear about writers being involved and they're really upset with the direction or this, that, the other thing, and they have their own opinions. Like, I didn't have time to disagree with Jake's direction of things. Like, all right, because you want me to do this is what I got to do. Got to just put this fucking show up.
Is there any part of it for you though that's therapeutic to kind of have to revisit that mindset that you've worked to get out of?
In its own way, yeah, actually, it's kind of it's actually like relieving, like realizing how far I've come, right, and how much of that I've left behind. And there is something, to be said. Like the show is just so emotionally exhausting to do.
Sure.
Like there's a certain like constant catharsis I'm getting out of it, if that makes sense. Like there's such a release. I don't know. Yeah, it has been nice in its own way.
Well, I mean, let's give the other principal actors their due as well, because
they're amazing. They're all better
fantastic.
than me.
Well, it's.
I mean,
modesty,
Carrie and Brandon are fantastic.
So Carrie, like the idea, like watching her move from the stage of, like the stages of self-realization as a character in your head, essentially, like, there's this insane level of growth that she very evidently and it kind of blew my mind how she achieved this going through.
Oh, she kills it. She nails that arc.
Yeah, from almost arriving as a newborn to being.
Oh yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah, she does that so well. The way it's so easily, like, gradually, what am I looking for? There's a very specific word I'm looking for, and I'm not thinking of it. But, like, just the way she builds it, right? And it's like it flows really well.
Well, and
like, it doesn't jump. It doesn't feel, split ever,
right?
If that makes sense. Like, it's like, well, how are you all of a sudden this self-actualized?
Right.
Out of the blue. Like, you can tell she really kept that in mind.
Well, but then the shift that she's, basically on a dime able to make between being the character of the woman and then being the woman.
Yeah.
That's something.
It's really impressive. And I think Brandon does a great job, too, of, like, switching between being, like, that super ego.
Right.
That manifestation of your self-loathing.
That's got to be fun, by the way, to just, unleash the vitriol of being that voice in your head that's just giving you constant shit.
I think it was fun to write.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that was a lot of fun to write. It was the most natural thing I ever wrote, too. Came out real easy.
Yeah, you end up.
He's also like
a
genuinely like optimistic, pleasant human being.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if he gets as much joy out of it as like you or I would.
Okay.
He does it well. I mean, he has fun. Like, he's just always going to have fun because he's just one of those people who, he's just an ebullient person, and loves everyone. And I mean, he's just a human puppy.
Wow.
But he does it really. I was, coming in to the rehearsal process and see him because he becomes the writer, right, in those memories,
right.
And like seeing him like unleash was like really impressive. And I, because I know him as a person and I've known him for a long time, and we were excited to cast him and we were really happy to and thought he could do it great. But there was always that question of like, yeah, but can you get like real dirty and shitty. Like, can you really like dig into the male, the toxic masculinity?
Yeah.
And he does, and he does it fantastically.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, and I love watching the both of them in that bathtub scene. They fucking kill it every time. Well,
but then they're able to really, seamlessly slip into the tender moment of where he's taking care of her, post dental surgery, but tonsillectomy. But I mean, everybody did a great job. So, coming into it like that, had they been kind of preparing to react to this unnamed person who had to drop out? How does that dynamic
happened
kind of shift
out of the blue?
Yeah.
Right. That was just
life happens. I'm assuming, especially in underfunded independent experimental theater, shit like that's got to happen all the time.
It has. It's not the first time it's happened to us actually either. It happened to us with our first show, End of Play. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if that was
the one that you
technically
guys
our first show.
did at the at 9 the Gallery?
No, we did End of Play was like 6 years ago. I would say, and that was at Space 55.
Okay,
and we had the show was up. We had done our first weekend, and then the actress had to drop out for one of the roles, so we had the last minute scramble. And we got this local actor, Seth Scott, and he was awesome, learned all of his lines. He did a fantastic job. We were able to still perform the show. And no one would have been the wiser unless they had been familiar with our process or had seen the previous weekend.
Sure, yeah.
So the notion of someone dropping out in the middle isn't, new to us. But, yeah, that wasn't something we were expecting. It just... one night was like, can't do it. Done. I was like, all right, well, hop in. Time to go.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Don't know who else to ask. Well, we had people, but I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I wanted it. I was like, it had been a minute since I had acted too, and I was like, this will be fun.
Yeah.
And then it turned out the show's really hard to
Do you prefer acting to writing, or
no? I prefer writing. I mean, acting's a lot of fun, and I wouldn't have started. Well, I don't know if that's completely true, but I mean, starting out acting helped definitely, helped lead me to writing, and invested in storytelling and wanting to do that. I don't know. I get different things out of them.
Sure.
They have their own different rewards. I would say I like writing more for the most part, but there's something very invigorating about being on stage, though. And there's, such a release on so many levels, being that focused and that invested. And, I've never left a show. I have horrible anxiety all the time, right? Just ravages me. I've never left a performance feeling anxious.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a cleansing aspect to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a therapeutic thing in a way for me, if that makes sense. And it also is genuinely there is that child imagination time.
Right.
All right, we're just gonna play around. I'm just gonna be this person. You're gonna be that person, and we're gonna play it out and see what happens. And
for the longest time, I wanted to be, my path was I was going to be a singer-songwriter type, right? Except I had crippling stage fright.
Oh yeah.
And so, I've told this story a ton, but I went to see this guy, Robin Hitchcock, and I asked him, I was like, so what's your advice to somebody, a musician, songwriter who has crippling stage fright? He's like, don't. And I'm like, okay, thanks, man. So I
Real
left
supportive.
Crush. Yeah, I left Crush, but it forced me to re-examine some things, right? So I always took more joy out of the writing things.
Yeah,
and always have. I would much rather write something and give it to somebody else to do.
Sure,
but there was a point where, and I had taken almost 10 years between graduating high school and then going to college, during which time I actually did get into the relationship where I got married, and it was a terrible experience, and all of that happened. But so I got back into writing, and then ended up actually like finding my way into reading stuff that I'd written in front of people that way.
Okay, yeah.
Whether it was through a workshop or then getting up on stage and then reading poetry or reading a short story or something like that. And it became like what you're saying, right? I've always been an anxious person. I've always had crippling anxiety. Always, just tons and tons of self-doubt and self-loathing. All these selves that are bad, I have all of those.
Yeah.
So, but there's this notion of if it's something that's important enough to you, you'll go do it.
Yeah.
Regardless of, and it never, that anxiety and that, for lack of a better term, that stage fright or whatever it is, never quite goes away, but it becomes something that you work through because what you feel you have to communicate is more important than whatever's holding you back.
It's more essential, yeah.
Yeah. And so when you do get it done, there is this like almost, not to get sexual with it, but it's an almost orgasmic release of I just fucking did this.
Dude, I mean,
and people are fucking clapping.
The first thing I do when I get off stage is I have a cigarette. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and just like feeling good knowing that you did it.
Yeah.
Like, side note, it's really funny you brought up like playing, music and having stage fright. Like, I cannot play instruments in front of people. Ever since I was a kid. So I think that's just kind of an interesting coincidence. But like when I was in orchestra in high school, when we had recitals, I would just pretend to play. Just move the bow back and forth, not doing anything.
Honestly, I've been playing for 20 plus years, and I'm just now getting comfortable playing in front of other people.
Well, that's awesome. Good for you.
Thanks.
That's exciting.
But yeah, I mean, absolutely.
You going on tour soon?
Oh, yeah, there we go. I'm going to start now at almost 40, so I'm going to launch my music career.
Hey, crazy things have happened.
I guess they have, right? But no, it's an interesting thing, right? We come around to these things at different times, and either, so maybe, and I hate to get like, it's not like a mystical thing or whatever. I think it's just a mental block. You come at something that, maybe you want to do it, but you're not in the right space to do it at that time.
Sure.
Or you haven't built up whatever you need to work through the things that are holding you back from doing it. So you end up finding the path that is right for you for that. And for me, it was reading stuff that I'd written that, I'd gained confidence in writing and doing that. And then for, maybe for you it was being able to inhabit a character and pull that off. But regardless, it's like once you get that first taste of approval from people, like from strangers.
I didn't want to admit it, but a big part of why I like acting is just the instant validation.
Yeah. I'm sure, right?
Oh, God, that feels great. You don't always get it. Like, I've been in some bad shows before, which it is what it is, but I guess, it's more than, the instant gratification of having people tell you how great you are, right? It's really lovely also being on stage and having that human connection. Because you should, like, I feel like if you're, like, really in it, like, you are like, you feel the audience's energy, and you're giving it back, and there's, like, a give and take. There's a flow to it.
Yeah.
And there's something very intimate about that. Well, and real.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just the applause, it's the person coming up to you afterwards and being like, that part where you did this or said that or had this line, that really,
resonated.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that especially, if you're somebody who's naturally shy or anxious or anything like that, when you get that connection with somebody, especially when on a relationship level, it's hard to achieve that kind of intimacy and let that, but then if you're able to do it with this person that you've never met before, then there's something that comes out of that.
And it's like really special, kind of having a moment that like this indelible moment that you now both have shared together, I don't know. So that's always really lovely.
Right. Well, let's, as we're kind of, hitting the golden hour mark or whatever you want to call it, how